Good morning. I'm just gonna wait for Facebook to hopefully stop spinning. But I want to say again, good morning. Um, Thanks for joining me now or at a later time. You know what? The funny thing is, one of the first questions I've been getting is like, "What's up with your hair?" I'm a little follically challenged, but not losing it, but getting too much of it. Just having some challenges, getting it cut. So hopefully in several weeks, still quite a long time, I'll get that done, and maybe the questions about it will subside. There's, of course, there's more important things to worry about, but just to answer those questions, which is surprising, is the number one question right now. I wanted to cover two things today. So first off is emotional awareness. So there's a lot of talk these days about emotional intelligence, EQ or emotional quotient. So what it is, it's having empathy, having this awareness of yourself and of other people, how they feel, what they're thinking, their behaviors. It's Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of other. It's the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes so that you can see things from their perspective. What this does is to be able to hopefully help you understand why they think or why they act the way they do. Why is this important? Because if we don't take other people's thoughts and behaviors into consideration, we only have one perspective, which is your own. And who's to say that your perspective, what you think, is always right? That you always make the correct assumptions? If you're like me, that's probably not the case. And I tend to make a lot of assumptions, and I've been trying to control myself in terms of really thinking things through, right? To use more of that empathy. When people ask me in terms of how was I so successful in my career and continue to do so, I think the number one skill that has helped me is empathy. That I do care about that other individual that I'm dealing with, as well as trying to understand things from their perspective. So how does this tie into emotional awareness? Oh, when I was talking about empathy, you're putting yourself in other people's shoes, but you also need to be aware of yourself. How do you think? How do you feel? Like, why do you behave the way that you do? You need to be able to look into yourself and assess yourself in order to continue to improve, right? In order to be the best that you can be. And when it comes to emotional awareness, it's something challenging. I think maybe because I'm a male, traditionally we've been taught to suppress emotions, right? That to be more stoic. Emotions can be perceived as a sign of weakness, which is not the case at all. I mentioned in the past that people tend to make decisions based on emotion instead of logic. So let me give you an example. If you're out to buy a new piece of clothing and it looks good, it feels great, does it matter that it's made out of cotton or polyester, or that it's made in Canada or the US or some other country? If you really love that piece of clothing, does it matter what the price is? Unless it's some ridiculous amount. Most of us, if we do love that piece of clothing, will buy it, right? Despite any logic or facts that pertain to that item, right? So that's an example where people make decisions based on emotion. If you're not aware of your own emotions, you may not realize how you're making your decisions or how you're being perceived by other people. I'll give you an example. Maybe maybe I'll use myself as an example. That I think I do come across as more calm and level-headed, but there's been times where I have been provoked or I've gotten angry, and I will push my point across. That I'll talk very firmly. I won't shout, but it's almost to that point where I'm very firm and very aggressive to get my point across. And what I didn't realize was I was doing this. And to the other person listening to what I have to say, they may not realize what's I'm thinking in my mind. That all they see is this angry guy almost shouting at them, trying to get their point across, despite me trying to explain to them in a cool, logical manner why this certain situation is the way it is or a certain decision has been made. So because I wasn't aware of my emotion at that time, I acted in a certain way that had a negative impact on other people. Right? There's a lot of different situations. Like let's take the opposite. An opposite example that someone um, tends to be very extroverted or very social. Is great dealing with people, but in stressful situations, or for example, there's a project with a very tight deadline and people are scrambling, or there's a very intense meeting, they may close off, that they shut themselves off, that instead of being their normal extroverted self, they keep quiet. Again, in this situation, it could be for many reasons that they're doing this. Maybe it's fear. Maybe they just don't know what to do or what to say. Maybe they don't want to say something that may think could offend or hurt someone else. Right? Again, being aware of the emotions within you in certain situations can help you define and think through your what you're going to say and how you're going to behave. Right? I always think of that saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover." It's funny because I do believe that people shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but people do it. Right? To me, that saying is more of a warning. Right? It's telling me that people will judge me by how I look, by how I speak, by how I behave. That I need to be careful that I don't do that to other people as well. Right? There's scientific studies that have shown that people will do a quick mental assessment of you or of another person in the first 5 to 10 seconds. Right? Just based on you haven't even have to have said anything. It could be the way you make your physical gestures, how you stand or sit, or even how you look. So people do make those very quick judgments, right? And again, I'm not saying you should judge a book by its cover, but know that it exists a lot. And unconsciously that many, if not everyone, makes those judgments. So when it comes to emotional awareness, if you're not aware of how you're coming across, that people will possibly get the wrong impression of you, right? Or interpret whatever you're saying incorrectly. Right? So you need to be more aware, right? When it comes to empathy, it's not being aware of the other person, but it's also being aware of yourself. So what you need to do in order to make changes is, number one, have that awareness, right? Maybe you need to stop yourself in certain situations and think it through, right? If you're being overly aggressive, stop, take a breath, right? Recompose yourself and continue on. Maybe it means taking a short walk, right, after a meeting. Or maybe it could even mean excusing yourself, talking with another person or in a meeting. Right? You got to be patient. So this change, it doesn't happen instantaneously. Like anything, it takes time, it takes practice. But I feel that if people invested more into being more emotionally aware, that it's going to help themselves in the long term. right? We don't want these emotions taking over us and triggering us so that we might end up saying something or doing something inadvertently that could, hurt someone else. That's not what we want to do, right? Which brings me to another thought in my head that people sometimes have to, or they should think about treating themselves as a brand, right? Or that they need to market themselves, right? If you think about any product or service out there, like they're always coming across to you with a positive message. That's what you want to do. You want to market yourself through a positive message. So positive behavior, positive words, right? I'm not saying that we're all perfect, that we're calm, logical beings, but it's something to be aware of, and that we need to work on. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about, because I've been encountering more and more people having this issue lately, is saying no. Let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where you're very busy or you're focused on something and someone comes up to you and asks for your help or asks you to do something? How do you react? I think how I used to react is that I would say yes to everything. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are similar in that way and do the same thing that I did. Like, I don't want to say no. I don't want to hurt that other person's feelings, especially in a work context and someone that you report to or someone higher up in the hierarchy is asking you to do something. You might be afraid to say no. Right? If I say no, um, will I get fired? What's my boss going to think of me if I say no? My message is it's okay to say no, but with a caveat. I think because I'm a male, I feel that men are taught to be direct, but not everyone is comfortable doing that, right? Saying what's on their mind and being honest and transparent about things. It's not easy. It's not comfortable for people to do, and not everyone knows how to be direct in that way, even though it could help you. They don't know how to do it or feel comfortable about being direct. Again, speaking about myself, I mentioned why I felt like I was afraid to say no. I didn't want to say no. But again, a lot of people tend to behave similarly to me because saying no, they feel like it might damage the relationship you might have with the other person. That if they say no, something bad's gonna happen. Like I said, will the boss fire me or look down upon me? Will it hurt my chances for a promotion? And I think what really hinders people from saying no is they care about what other people think about them. Right? Over time, from the time when you're young, you care about what people think about you, right? Your reputation, in school, high school, college, right? Other people's opinions matter. But as you grow older and you gain that experience and you gain that wisdom, you realize that it doesn't matter what people think about you, right? You shouldn't let other people's opinions dictate how you live your life. Right? So something that I suggest to learn and practice again is to learn to say no. But it's not as straightforward as that. The reason why is because, again, I find a lot of people are um, their thinking is very black and white. Right? It's one or the other, 0 or 1, true or false, yes, no, right? But my belief is that nothing is ever black or white. It's always a shade of gray. Right? So when it comes to saying no, it's not a matter of saying yes or no. You say no, but you provide options or parameters. So what does that mean? If you're busy and someone comes up to you to ask for a favor or for help with something, and you don't want to help them or you don't have the time, say no. But no with a little extra tacked onto it. For example, you could say no, but I can help you at a later time or a later date. Is that okay with you? No, I can't help you right now, but if you do want me to help you, I can do what you're asking me to do, but with these restrictions. And I only have this much time to give to you. Or you explain to them, no, I've promised to help someone else, and I don't want to break that promise to someone else. So can I address your needs at a later time? So what you want to do is you want to say no, but you give the other person options, right? If you just say no, it can be a very blunt response, and it can be interpreted as this rude, or the other person doesn't care, and it might trigger emotions on that other person's perspective, that when they hear that no, they could get triggered, right? There's that emotional awareness coming in, that they get triggered, they get angry, they get upset, they think you're being belligerent, but that's not the case, right? Usually I find that most people do want to help other people, but it's just that they're too busy, or they're committed to something else, right? What I recommend is that, yes, you should be able to say no and provide options, but don't say no and try to give explanations. Like, no, I'm just too busy right now and I can't help you. No, I can't do this right now, or else I'm gonna be late delivering my milestone. Okay, why? Because people will treat these as counter arguments, right? And they'll think of arguments to counter your arguments, right? And what this leads to is a debate, right? So they don't. When you try to explain something, they may they may interpret it as excuses, right? And then an argument can arise, and it can cause resentment towards you just because you said no. Everything has a cost, right? That if you are busy and you switch your focus to something else is going to suffer, right? You can communicate that to the other person, but indirectly. And this is where you give them the options, right? I know I can't help you, but is option A, B, or C suitable for you? You put it back on their plate, and they can make the choice, right? In the end, we all want to help each other, but we all have limited time, we have limited energy, and we all want to, save the world. But remember, one step at a time, right? We can only do so much. We can only help so many people. And if you try to do everything and to help everyone, you're just going to hurt yourself, and you won't be able to, you'll end up not being able to do anything at all, right? Again, it's okay to say no, but you need to give people options. All right, so those were the two things on my mind today. Again, that's the emotional awareness, thinking about what things that trigger you, so that once you know these, you can devise strategies on how to handle it, so that your behaviors, your actions, your thoughts can be tweaked, right, to bring about more positive results. And then I talked about learning to say no, right? Many of us have a hard time saying no, but it's okay. But if you say no, give people the options. All right. Thanks again for joining me on my Facebook Live. I love doing these every week. Hopefully I'm providing you with value. If you have any questions, issues, challenges, please feel free to contact me. I want do my best to be able to help you resolve those things on your plate. All right. You know I'm on Facebook, but I'm also on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Please visit me, and I appreciate it. All right, take care. Until next time, have a good one, folks.